Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. For some context, I, 26 female, was raised by my grandmother from the age of 7. My parents weren't exactly winning any parenting awards, and my grandma took me in without hesitation. She was the kindest, strongest person I've ever known. She taught me how to bake, how to sew, and most importantly, how to stand up for myself. Fast forward, when she got older, she developed Alzheimer's, and I became her full-time caregiver for over 2 years. It was heartbreaking, but I never regretted a second. She passed away earlier this year, and I was the one handling her funeral, her house, her will, everything. Now let's talk about my cousin. Let's call her Ella, 28 female. If you've ever met someone with main character syndrome, that's her. She's an influencer, of course, but not many followers, and genuinely believes the world revolves around her. She didn't visit Grandma once during her illness, not once. But guess who showed up at the funeral, with a film crew? Yes, Ella. We held the service in Grandma's garden, just like she wanted. Ella rolled up in a long white lace dress, full glam, with a guy filming her for a grief vlog. I gave a speech about Grandma's life, about her humming when I cried as a kid. Ella gave a speech about how she used to nap on Grandma's couch after exhausting shopping trips. 1 week later, Ella calls me. No hello, no how are you? She goes, hey, so I know the house isn't huge, but it's a solid investment. I'll be moving in at the end of the month, so we need to sort out keys and utilities. Excuse me? I was stunned. I told her, Ella, the house isn't yours. Grandma already transferred ownership to me last year. She laughed, like I was telling a joke. No. Grandma promised me the house when I was little. She said I was her little star and that the house would be mine. I even have a TikTok of her saying it. I thought she was kidding. She wasn't. She sent me a TikTok of my grandma, already deep in Alzheimer's, saying, "You're my little star," and overlaid the video with the caption, "She promised me her house." Blessed. I explained, as calmly as I could, that my grandma wrote a legally binding will before she got sick. It's registered, notarized, everything. Ella no se importó. I don't believe in all that paper nonsense. Grandma wanted me to have it. If you don't give it up, I'll tell my followers how greedy you are and how you manipulated her. Cool. Emotional blackmail and public shaming. Classic influencer move. I didn't think much about it. I was planning to just ignore her. But then she really lost it. 2 weeks later, I got a letter from her lawyer. No, I'm not joking. She was trying to contest the will. She claimed I manipulated my grandmother in her weakened mental state and that the will didn't reflect Grandma's true wishes. What she didn't know? My grandma made the will before her diagnosis. It had doctor's notes attached, witnesses, and everything was ironclad. But Ella thought her followers would save her. And honestly, maybe they would have, if not for something I found in Grandma's old dresser. While cleaning out Grandma's bedroom, I found a small sealed envelope. It was dated just weeks after she finalized her will. Inside was a handwritten letter that said, "To anyone who tries to challenge my decision, Ella, I love you, but you've never been here. Not when I got sick, not when I was scared, not even for birthdays. This house goes to the one who stayed, to the one who saw me, even when I forgot who she was." Her handwriting was shaky but still recognizable. It wasn't legally binding, but when my lawyer submitted it as additional documentation, Ella's lawyer backed off, fast. Ella se dio cuenta. Si ella llevaba esto a la corte, todo saldría a la luz. The fact that she abandoned our grandma, that she only showed up with cameras, that she never once called to say goodbye. She ghosted. I haven't heard from her since then, which was around a week ago, but I promise that I will give you guys an update as soon as I can. Update. Note that this isn't the real update. I just wanted to clarify some things. Hey again. I just wanted to give a quick update because a few people were asking, and also to clarify why I asked in the first place if I was the a-hole. Now, I didn't mention any of this in the original text, but now I realize that I probably should have. So the only reason that I actually doubted myself was because of my grandfather. He and my grandmother were divorced for a long time, and they weren't super close when she passed. But still, he recently reached out and told me that he thinks Ella was right to try and claim the house. He said it would have been the decent thing to do, to let her have it, since she always felt closest to it. I honestly didn't expect him to get involved at all, especially this far after everything happened. But now he's basically implying that I was selfish for keeping the house, even though it was legally left to me. So yeah, that's what shook me a bit. Not because I think Ella deserves it, she doesn't, but because I didn't expect a family member to suddenly back her up. I guess I just wanted to check if I'm being unfair without realizing it. I'm so sorry for your loss. You are so wonderful for everything that you did for your grandmother. Be strong and don't let Ella get anything. I'm so over entitled, people. Be well. Not the a-hole, and your grandma was a badass. She knew Ella was greedy and would try to bulldoze you. Good job, Grandma. Not the a-hole. Your cousin, on the other hand? Wow, that is one self-centered, entitled, greedy a-hole. Well done to you and Grandma for being so organized and prepared. And I'm sorry for your loss. Sounds like she wasn't just your grandma, but your best friend and your champion too. I moved to the city 25 years ago after uni to kickstart my career. After 5 years of saving, I was able to buy my first flat, where I still lived when virus hit. After months of working from home, it became clear that I no longer needed to be living in an expensive city and decided to sell up and move to the country. So that's what I did. Having bought 20 years ago and now mortgage-free, I was able to buy outright and still have a lump sum left over. Meanwhile, my sister has always rented with her husband, and we're struggling to save for a deposit to buy. Having an unexpected windfall, my flat had appreciated fourfold since I bought it. I sent them £15,000 towards their deposit, which I transferred to her account. Fast forward to Christmas, and all the family went to theirs. We're toasting their first Christmas as homeowners, and I clinked glasses with brother-in-law. I said congratulations, and he said thank you. I replied saying, just happy I could help. The mood immediately dropped. He looked confused, and I could feel sister glaring at me across the table. He asked what I meant, and I said I was just happy to help make up the deposit. He looked at sister and asked what I was talking about. The penny dropped. She never told him. A huge row ensued. He stomped off and she went to her room for the rest of the night. Mum was furious with me for ruining Christmas. I had no idea, although with hindsight, I should have twigged when she bought a new car when they were supposedly saving for a house. I wasn't bothered about the money, as I would have gifted it regardless of how they used it. But she didn't tell him, and somehow the ruined Christmas was my fault for triggering the argument. Am I the a-hole? Edit 1. She never asked for help or even hinted. I only told her after the transfer. She messaged back, surprised but super excited, saying, "We can't thank you enough." We. I assume she told him. I never mentioned it to any other friends or family, even parents, and it was never mentioned again. Edit 2. As such, it never even occurred to me to discuss in advance what to say and to whom. I had no intention of bringing it up, and I didn't. It came out due to crossed wires. Edit 3. The only people present during the exchange were me, sister, and brother-in-law. Other people were in the room, but out of earshot. Not the a-hole. Her greed and her lies are not your fault. You weren't complicit in this. She duped you and your brother-in-law. Not the a-hole. Saying happy to help, you're welcome, no biggie, my pleasure, are all common responses to thank you. And he thanked you. Your sister is obviously an a-hole for hiding the truth and not even bothering to warn you that she'd involved you in her secret. I'm not sure what your mother thinks you should have said, given that you didn't even know it was a secret, but she's also an a-hole for saying you ruined Christmas. Not the a-hole. Your sister never told you your brother-in-law didn't know, so when you proved her account false, unintentionally exposed her deception. Whatever the reason, be it pride or whatever else, she ruined Christmas by reacting badly to being called out. There are clearly deeper issues in their relationship, possibly relating to money. Friends said I was cheap and should reconsider marrying my fiancé, so I'm going to ask for some unbiased opinions here. Background. I work as a software engineer and I grew up upper middle class. Parents make a total of around $300K. My fiancé's family is significantly wealthier, and she grew up, in my opinion, financially irresponsible. Dropping $10K a month on clothes is irregular. She is a cardiovascular residency student. I recently proposed to her with the consideration of her picking her own ring. She took me to Tiffany and some other obscure brands to try on rings, and I told her it was way out of my budget, $20K plus. She tried to ask if I was willing to split the cost of a ring 50-50. With her wanting big-name brands, engagement and wedding ring for us both would cost way over my $500 budget for jewelry. She relented and sent me a link to a ring that cost $1,000, not including tax. Obviously, I said no again. I can't understand what her obsession is with jewels, to be honest. I don't even plan on wearing my wedding ring because I'm not a jewelry guy. When I told my fiancée, she just gave me a yikes, rolled over and went to sleep. A couple days later, our mutual friend from her middle school, high school, and my university said I'm being too cheap. Their social circle has some expectations of 2-carat diamond rings, so fiancé expected something along those lines. Objecting to a $1,000 ring makes her reconsider marrying me, blah blah blah. I don't think I'll be convinced into spending more, and I told my fiancé so. Confronted her about gossiping about me to our friends. She blew up, saying I put her under a lot of pressure by being sensitive to our different finances, doubting she can have the wedding of her dreams under my budget, and made it clear that I don't dictate how much she can spend, which I don't in the first place. Wants a prenup now, and won't speak to me over circles of metal. I don't really question her budgeting outside of this issue, and it's the only time we fought. I honestly can't believe she has the audacity to air out our financial situation to our mutual friends. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to spend money on trivial jewelry that serves no practicality? You're the a-hole, not because of your budget, but because you seem hell-bent on rings being trivial and refuse to understand that it isn't trivial to your partner. Yeah, and not wearing a ring because you're not a jewelry guy? It's not about jewelry, it's about what it represents. He needs to shell out more than $500 unless he really can't afford it, and be willing to find some kind of simple ring he is willing to wear. I get the feeling his comments about not wearing a ring himself are almost as much of an issue as her low suggested price of her future ring. You're the a-hole. I normally agree people are crazy with their expectations for weddings, but she moved from a $20,000 expectation for the ring, which doesn't seem unusual based on how you describe her social circle and family, to finding one she liked for $1,000, and you have no flexibility on $500. Honestly, it sounds like you care more about your budget than your fiancé. Look, I came here to say not the a-hole, because engagement rings don't need to come with a $20,000 price tag. But you're the a-hole because of your unwillingness to compromise. Your fiancé clearly puts value in good quality items, whether that be clothing or jewelry. This is something you know about her, while you may think jewelry is trivial and serves no practicality. In your fiancé's social circle, and considering the job she's going for, that's unlikely to change. Good quality jewelry is a status symbol. Further, it is usually an heirloom. Your fiancé has offered 2 compromises to help her achieve this, while being sensitive to your concerns. She helps pay for the ring, or she brings the cost down to $1,000, which is a huge concession for her. You're not budging. That makes you the a-hole. You can feel the way you feel and also acknowledge your fiancé feels otherwise, and come to a compromise. Relationships are about compromise. It's your lack of compromise that is the issue here. Also, as a side note, even beyond the status symbol aspect, a ring she's planning to wear every day of her life should be good enough quality that it's not going to break in 10 years. I doubt you're going to get that for $500. Edit. I had no idea rings could cost tens of thousands of dollars, or even past a couple hundred at the most, so her standard shocked me. Edit 2. I thoroughly read through all your comments last night, and I am the a-hole. I will discuss with fiancé in the next upcoming days and see what I can do. After being a couple for 5 years and married for about 3, my husband is packing his East Coast condo to bring his belongings to the house we live in on the West Coast, which was my home for at least 8 years as a single woman. I want to know if I'm an a-hole for asking that he dispose of or donate the tuxedo in which he married his second wife in 1986, rather than bring it to our home. My husband and I were friends and casual lovers in college. He rejected me for his first wife, and though this was not a big issue for me, I heard nothing from him in 43 years. When he contacted me 5 years ago, he was separated from, by his choice, but not divorced from, a second wife. He then went through with the divorce, which took 2.5 years and was not only nasty, but financially stressful and draining. I asked him to please remove any wedding photos of him with this woman from his mother's apartment before I visited. His mother no longer lived there. He did not do that, but told me he was unaware of the photo that was in fact there. He did dispose of it or hide it after I called his attention to it. He appeared to believe that I had no reason to be bothered by the photo, despite my giving him advance notice that I did not want to see such photos. My husband worked as an attorney, is now retired. He acknowledged having purchased the tuxedo before his marriage in 1986, but denies having purchased the tuxedo for that wedding. He states that he had worn the tuxedo after his wedding, but says he does not recall whether he wore it to get married. He was wearing a tuxedo in the wedding photo I saw. It seems clear to me that this is the tuxedo in which he married his ex-wife, but he says he doesn't remember. I confess that I find his logistics and defensiveness on this point lacking in forthrightness. Given its past use, and that the tuxedo is now 34 years old, at least, and almost certainly does not fit my husband anymore, I have asked that he not bring it to our West Coast home. I told him that I would prefer to donate it or trash it immediately, but as a compromise, I proposed that he leave it in his East Coast condo for now and dispose of it as he sees fit in his last visit there. He thinks this is unreasonable of me and wishes to bring the tuxedo to our West Coast home, whereupon he will decide on a suitable disposition. He acknowledges that he knew, even before I mentioned it, that I don't want this item in our home, and that I feel disrespected and dismissed by his insistence on bringing it. I should add that I have never suspected my husband of harboring affection for his ex, and that he and I had a simple, informal marriage ceremony. I have also been married and divorced, but I do not have any wedding garments in my possession, nor did I ever marry in formal attire. Am I an a-hole for objecting to having my husband's former wedding garb in our home? You're the a-hole. Your husband comes with a past. He shouldn't have to trash everything that reminds you of his past, including pictures. He is with you now. Quit trying to compete with his exes. If he brings the tux, put it in a closet you don't use inside a garment bag. You're the a-hole. Tuxedos are expensive. Honestly, I think you're a little too wrapped up in trying to delete his past to make yourself feel good. Chill out and accept that he did have a prior relationship, and it was a big part of his life. But it has nothing to do with trying to hurt you or anything like that. It isn't always about you. Good God, you do know that is a tux. Not the ex-wife disguised as a tux, right? I do not know what mental gymnastics you are performing over this piece of cloth that is getting you into such a state, but you need to stop. You sound like you're trying to convince a jury of a crime the way you worded this and presented the evidence and timescale of the tux and photo evidence. It is exhausting. You're the a-hole. I, 46 female, am married to a retired, stay-at-home husband, 56 male. As the breadwinner, I work very hard to provide for our children, which causes a lot of resentment from my stepdaughters, who were grown when I married my husband. They grew up very poor because neither of their parents were good providers, and they get very jealous over what I am able to do for my children. We have provided gifts for my stepdaughters over the years, cars, vacations, and financial assistance. All of that came from my income and my planning, as I handle all of the finances. But my focus is on my children. My oldest is starting college, and I am blessed to have a good job and good health, and expect to work into my 70s. Because my oldest is about to become an adult, my husband and I are revisiting our wills, made when our children were much younger. My husband's will provides for me and all of his children. My will provides for my husband and my children, currently minors, with my stepdaughters and siblings as contingent beneficiaries. 20 years ago, my husband learned that my older stepdaughter, now 37 female, wasn't his. His ex cheated. His stepdaughter ran off to live with bio-dad, refused to call my husband dad, and then cut off ties with bio-dad and moved out when he refused to financially support her, and returned to acknowledging my husband as her father. My husband forgave her. 3 years ago, my stepdaughter started hinting that she wanted money to record an album with her Christian rock band. She has never treated me as an equal in my marriage and only had these conversations with my husband about supporting her album. My clueless husband spent $50 buying some CDs, and maybe I was the a-hole for not speaking up that she expected more support, but she never asked me. She never does. Later I learned that she felt entitled to have us contribute $10,000 to fund her record, which is ridiculous, and I would have said no if asked, but I would have done more than $50. So on Father's Day, my stepdaughter disowned and humiliated my husband, and by extension, my children and me, in a public social media post, announcing that he is not her bio dad, disparaging him, and thanking her stepfather for taking care of her. My husband wants nothing more to do with his older daughter. His attempts at contact for the last 3 years have been rebuffed, and gifts sent to her children returned. He is redrafting his will to disown her. He also wants to disown her children as well. I think he should leave his older daughter's share to her children in trust, but he feels that would benefit his daughter. Her children are innocent, and I think they should get their mother's share. Am I the a-hole because I don't think he should disown his grandchildren? I am considering the same advice for my will. Bypass the stepdaughter and leave her share to the kids. No a-hole, but at the end of the day, you should not pressure him into it. It needs to be his choice. As the kids age, they can make their own choice to come around without their mother's interference. He can always change the will again to include them. No a-hole, I can see your point. However, it seems you're overlooking 2 things. 1, that's not his daughter. She isn't by blood, and if she ever was by relationship, she severed that. 2, those aren't his grandchildren, not biologically, and not clear if there was any meaningful relationship, and there doesn't appear to be any prospect of it. If that changes, so can the will, but if it doesn't, then this seems right. You're the a-hole. She came back to your husband because she only cares for money, and now your husband wants to leave her with none after being fed up with her attitude. She's not entitled to his money just because he raised her, especially if she disowned him. You are being an a-hole by trying to force him to give his money to someone that actively uses him again and again. Her kids are innocent. Yes, but it is still the consequences of her actions. Stop meddling in this. This is your husband's decision. My 24 female friend, 25 female, has been struggling a lot financially ever since we graduated college. She lives in a really broken down house with a bunch of health hazards as she's not a clean person. She has 4 dogs and they poop and pee on the floor, and she barely mops or dusts the place. She also has a bad roach infestation. How people live is not my business, but my friend started a homemade skincare company. I went to her house one day to drop off some celebratory cake from my fiancé and I's engagement party, which she could not attend. When I got there, I saw her making some body butter in a mixing bowl. She dropped a lot of the powder she was using on the floor and just swept it back up and put it in her bowl. I told her she couldn't sell that, but she said it was fine and that she had done stuff like that before. I was disgusted and quietly left. She's given free samples to our friends before, and most of the time they've broken out or got some kind of reaction after using it. Nobody ever said anything as not to discourage her, but this was so unsanitary and unsafe. She is pretty popular and good at advertising, so quite a few people have bought her things. She has about 4,000 followers and a lot of people have complained, but she just deletes those comments. Mind you, these are all locals from our city. I texted her about it and told her to stop doing that, and she told me to stop meddling. I was honestly so fed up and thought about how dangerous this was for customers and made a public post exposing her, and she lost a lot of her followers and her reputation was ruined. She basically lost her source of income, and people started demanding money plus threatening lawsuits. One girl claimed she broke out so bad in hives, she doesn't even list ingredients, that she had to get some sort of life-saving shot. My friend group is very angry at me and have said many mean things. I do feel bad because my already struggling friend, I don't know if I can call her that anymore, is losing her income and possibly facing legal problems because of me. But I really wanted to protect those people. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You probably saved somebody's life shutting her down. Not the a-hole. Imagine someone allergic to dog hair used her products. The lawsuit would have been way worse then. You did the right thing. Not the a-hole. This is her own fault. She can't run a sanitary business, and she was going to get shut down eventually. You just prevented more people from getting hurt first.